left, but let's just everybody jump in. I saw Amani put something in the chat to say if she didn't get a chance to say it. So maybe Amani, you wanna start for us?
Well, okay, so what I was actually saying was that I was feeling a kind of awe about all of you all in this conversation, and because one of the things I always say about Toni Morrison is that she would have these sentences where it would be in the flow of the narrative, but the sentences could stand alone as these extraordinary kind of moments of reckoning, observation, like life mantras potentially. And then it occurred to me that I could do that with everybody. Like I can think of sentences that you said that I've listened to or read, and I was like, oh, so there's actually that in some ways that's an aspect, a particular manifestation of Black women's genius that she captured in literary form, like that, so one, I was telling everybody to read and listen to all of you all, but two, I was thinking about what it means to hold on to words, like single sentences that you all have given me and that you give the world, and that of course she gave the world in absolute abundance. I'm feeling very moved by that. So
yeah. Thank you.
And what you have given us too, I think it's so powerful. I think one of the amazing things that I will always take away from Ms. Morrison was that sense of continuity, and it goes from what Farah was saying about this notion of being hyper attentive to the moment, but understanding the past. And I think even in that swagger, I think she was fully in the body of who she was. And I remember this funny story. She was so funny, where she said, I was just signing the books and I started reading it while I was signing it. It's pretty good. It was like her book. I said to myself, this is pretty good. But the person wanted their book back, but she was like, she wanted to continue reading and enjoying her words. And I think she's given us an extra, like in Haitian culture, like when you get an extra, when you buy something, you get something called degi. I think the degi that she's given us is this. I was watching Anna Deavere Smith recently talking about, recent events, and she said, and I live in Miami, which is a very kind of insular, somewhat city, and you would go to the protest and you see everyone, and everyone was so young. And one of the things that Anna Deavere Smith was saying in this interview was that, yeah, a lot of these young people grew up reading Toni Morrison, they grew up reading James Baldwin, and she in some ways, embedded our humanity and into these young people and the way that they understand the struggle so much better perhaps than their parents. So I think that's sort of the extra thing that she's given us. But I feel like she's, that's one of the things that I said in the memorial, I see her everywhere. I see her in the faces of people. I see her in some words that I hear out of other people's mouths. So I think that's also one of the gifts that she's given us so much to carry us through several lifetimes and our children as well.
Indeed. I think not just on the page, which we have been rightly talking about, but in her very being. One of my very, very favorite Toni Morrison stories about being in her presence was going with her to Paris for the publication of the French translation, or the launching of the French translation of A Mercy. And she was going to get an award in Strasbourg. So we were going on the train from Paris to Strasbourg. And the night before, Toni decided we should have fried chicken on the train. And we did. And as a common, ordinary Southern working class Black woman, of course, this was perfectly normal to me. But the idea that people are on a train literally with a box of fried chicken, I always found that hilarious. And a suggestion of she could, as she addressed that interviewer, let people know this is who I am, and yes, you should take notice. She could have that imperious quality about her, but there was also something really quite regular, right? The person who could say, go and give me another a slice of pie. And that was always endearing to me. This magisterial presence, this really larger than life human being, but who had enormous capacity just to be, right, with people, in company, doing ordinary things. So that's that. If there's time, I have something I want to read, but I just had my say there because she's up there, way, way, way up there in the atmosphere. But I feel so fortunate, as I know the rest of you do, to have had those moments that could appear to be kind of name-dropping moments, but that's not it. That's you had these encounters with her. She always chastised me. You know, I might show up somewhere late. Here you come again, you're always late. And so she was just a regular person, which I loved enormously. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, dear.
Oh,
Mariama, you've been doing this a long time. Unmute.
Mariama, you're muted.
Yeah, I was saying it went to the corner of the screen.
Okay.
Radical truth telling. Radical truth telling. I want to just go back to something Farah said. We do have a lot of writers, but this is the house that Morrison built.
Mm-hmm.
This is the house that, in her time, we will continue to we've got to keep building this house.
Yes.
She gave us the opportunity. She gave us a certain access. And we're in the process of reconvening those 75 teachers who were part of those first 4 language matters, because they reached so many students in high school. But I just can't, I'd be remiss if I just didn't remind us that this is the house that Morrison built.
That's true.
And how do we not take it seriously, not be attentive, not be accountable and responsible for the charge she has given us?
And Dana, could I just follow up with Mariama here? You're so right. You know, Morrison also was a great reader of her work, and she kind of let people in to the questions that lay beneath it. She let people into aspects of its construction. And I recall, I forget which essay this is, when she's reading the endings of her novels, right? She's actually going through each of her novels in the endings. She's talking in the context of that essay about something she spoke about frequently, and that is the importance of the reader as a co-creator of meaning and understanding in her work. But she also talked about that as obligating the reader in ways, as basically implying that the reader had a certain public responsibility after reading this work, after participating in the meaning making. And in that essay, she talked about, after one gets to this point, like in jazz, look where your hands are now, right? Just a deliciously wonderful passage. She's saying, what I'm suggesting here, she's instructing the reader of this essay, is that there is something to be done. Something is to be reimagined. Something is to be altered. And that something is literally in the reader's hands, right? So it's literally in your hands to carry on and caretake this house that Morrison built, all right? And the ethics, all right, the challenges that she gives us in this is a huge house too. When you say this is the house that Morrison built, this is a McMansion, right? This is a huge house.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Farah, you're muted now.
I want to jump in quickly on something that Mariama said, that and I think it fits in with the humanities too, is that, right, Morrison, journal